Happy Sabbath, happy Sabbath. Again, welcome to the Bible Preachers of God, Brother Jacob, and happy Sabbath to the born again by the word of God, to those that are the poor and needy, and those of you that are seeking a change of life and heart. Today we continue our lesson in a complete day according to the Bible. I have here on my right, your left, the chart of a complete day, and today we are in part 2. We're in the day part of this. Last week we dealt with part 1, which was the evening. Today we're dealing with the day part, which is called daytime. We dealt with the nighttime last week. This day rather, we deal with part 2, the daytime. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go into the scriptures, and what I want to do is pick it up where we left off last week, and we're going to start in the morning. We're going to start real early in the morning. We're going to actually start at, let's go to Judges 9 and 33. Judges 9th chapter and verse 33. I'm sorry, before I do that, because we may have some people that don't quite have part 1. Let's go to Genesis first chapter. Sorry, Genesis 1 and 1. Just to show you how a day is broken down, and then we're going to get to the morning part. But before we go to that Judges, I'm sorry, my bad. I want to go and show you that a day consists of 2 parts, an evening and a morning. Someone may not have seen part 1. So I highly recommend that you do so. Also on our website, you can go on our website and you can pull up in the Doctrine You tab a complete day according to the Bible, and you will get this chart that you see to my right, your left, and it has all the scriptures on here that you need for the day. I may add, maybe add a couple. I've written some here for myself on this piece of paper, but this is what it looks like, barring without the red on it, y'all. So those are the little tidbits that I added on there. However, you can go to our website, BiblePreachersOfGod.com, and go to the Doc for You tab and print out this lesson. Literally, it's all right here. I really ain't got much to add. So the scriptures are before us, and all I need to do is look and read. So right here, however, I want to go to Judges. Genesis 1, Genesis 1 and verse 1. Okay? Genesis 1 and verse 1. When you get something to read.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water.
Yes, sir. So darkness of the sea was in the beginning. That's what starts at the beginning. Darkness started at the beginning in this whole process, because watch how it goes into a day. Go ahead.
And God said, let there be light. And it was light.
So now we have darkness first, and then we have light. That's why we started in part 1. In part 1, that's why we started with this part here, the dark part. Because that starts the day. That starts a day. Darkness starts a day, y'all. Go ahead.
And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. So we see the process that the Bible gives us that makes up a complete day is an evening and a morning. Again, it's an evening, and then you'll have your morning. So we dealt with part 1, we dealt with the night, which is called the evening, which is the darkness. Now we're moving on to the day part. We're moving on to when the sun is rising up, which brings in the day. So let's go to Judges 9 and 33.
I'm sorry, 19 and 5. Judges 19 and 5. Judges 19 and verse 5. You get some reading.
And it came to pass on the 4th day, when they rose early in the morning, and he rose up to depart, and the damsel's father said unto him, to his son-in-law, comfort thine heart with a morsel of bread, and afterward go your way.
Now remember, this is about a day. We're looking at what's happening with a day, not necessarily the event in the day. But we see it says, as it came to pass on the 4th day, when they rose early in the morning. So this portion of the day, we're talking early in the morning, right here. Right at the beginning, we're going to see terms such as morning, sunrise, and we're going to see as it goes towards the noon. And then also I want to point out, we have what's called the AM. And we have, once you go past noon, then you have the PM. And even in this portion, we're going to look at even Jesus himself, the event that occurred with Jesus' death on the cross, being significant in understanding exactly when the Lord died. Exactly when the Lord had actually given up the ghost. So without further ado, now let's go to 2 Samuel 23 and 4. 2 Samuel 23 and verse 4. And what brought this lesson, I repeated, was we had some brothers that were contentious about when the day started. They felt that you had to wait till it's completely dark. So the Lord caused me to search the matter out, and I saw where it said at evening meant sunset. From even to even shall you celebrate your Sabbath. Then it said from dark to dark. And at evening, as we pointed out last week, constitutes when the sun is down. And it ain't dark when the sun is down. Darkness has begun. So that's what caused me to put this together, because I hadn't been taught it. It hadn't come across the roster. And a lot of people had assumed that everybody knows when this lesson is worth teaching, because it's important in keeping the Lord's high days the right way. When he said fast from evening to evening, or at evening shall you keep the Passover, or, you know, when the Lord sets times, they're in this Bible, y'all, for a purpose, y'all, for a reason. It's not for us to ignore. So 23 and verse 4. Let's look at a term right here that's in the Bible. 2 Samuel 23 and verse 4. And again, we're not concerned about the event in that day. We're just looking at how the Bible tracks a day. 2 Samuel 23 and verse 4. Go ahead.
And he should be as the light of the morning.
As the light of the morning. Now, as he closed out the evening, you have a light coming up. You have twilights. As that sun is quite, not quite up, but you see the light of the morning. Go ahead.
When the sun rises.
Oh, when the sun, what? Rises. So when that sun come up above the horizon, it said when the sun rises. Go ahead.
Even the morning without clouds, as the tender grass springing out of the earth, like clear shining after rain.
Okay, so now let's go and let's look at, what's our next verse? Let's go to Exodus, the 12th chapter, see what this time period is called. Exodus 12 and 10. Exodus 12 and 10. Again, this is part 2 of a complete day according to the Bible. A complete day consists of an evening, which is first, and then the morning, which is second. Exodus 12th chapter and verse 10. Now, in this passage, the Lord had specific requirements concerning the Passover. And he said, none of it shall remain until the morning. In other words, it had to be gone by the time the sun rose. So watch how the Lord put this here, right here. We're going to go right here and start at verse 10. Read.
And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire.
So in the morning, which constitutes a sunrise, this portion right here, when the sun rises, this is the morning, so they couldn't have any of the Passover remaining, y'all. Okay, once the sun had risen. So now, let's go to Luke 24:1. Luke 24th chapter and verse 1. Luke 24 and verse 1. Luke 24 and verse 1. You get it? Amen. Read.
Now, upon the first day of the week.
Now, upon the first day of the week. Go ahead.
Very early in the morning, they came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them.
Now look, this is on the first day of the week. Now, on the way to learning something, let's get down to verse 7. Because you got people who think that Jesus rose early Sunday morning. Watch this, y'all. Let's get down to verse 7.
Saying, the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of the sinful men, and be crucified, and the third day rise again.
Now wait a minute, the third day to rise again. So Jesus wasn't there upon the first day of the week, and he had to rise on the third day of the week. So as we come into this part of the day, Jesus wasn't there, so he couldn't have rose on the first day of the week because he had to rise on the third day of the week, which had already occurred from his death. That's why I said he should be crucified and the third day rise again. So it wasn't on the first day of the week he could have rose on. He had to rise during the third day, which come up under this. Now I'm going to bring this up right here. And count for us right quick. Should be good here. Because on the way to learn something, we're going to learn how to count days. I pointed it out kind of somewhat last week, but look, each. Yeah, let's get Facebook in there, Bob. Because this is really important to understand, y'all. As we count night and day, that's the first day. Night and day, that's the third day. Sundown brings it night and the third day. So now we're looking at a morning of the first day of the week. So now let's go hypothetically, if Jesus said he rise on the third day, so that's one day once the sun rose up, 2 days once the sun rose up again, 3 days that's once the sun rose up again. Now we're looking at the first day of the week. Now think about it. Jesus couldn't, well let me skip down here so we got this track. Because Jesus actually that one, no, we'll use this. Jesus couldn't have rose on what we just read the first day of the week because he had to rise the third day, which is the day that comes before the first day of the week, which is the Sabbath day, which is today. So he rose on today because tomorrow, the next time the sun come back up, will be another day. That will be 4 days if Jesus had rose on the first day of the week. But he had to rise the third day, which is today, from when Jesus died. The book will tell you he died in the middle of the week. That's what midst of the week means. So he had to rise on the Sabbath to be the Messiah according to what we read. Because if it wasn't according to what we read, then that was a lie. Okay, so that's why it's important to understand how the Lord counts a day. So the third day, according to what we read, let's go back to what we read. This is on the first day of the week. So he wasn't there on the first day of the week. And then read that verse 7 again.
Saying the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified.
Stop. And crucified. He was crucified in the middle of the week. That's when he died. And then go ahead.
And the third day rise again.
Which is today. He rose on the Sabbath day. That's why Jesus called the Lord on the Sabbath day. Okay? So that's how we know that thing about Jesus died on Good Friday. Child, please. Anyway, that's another lesson. But I want to point out something on the way to learning something as we point out and understand what a day is to God and how the Bible breaks it down. So now let's go to Mark 16:1. Mark 16:1. Mark 16 chapter and verse 1. Read.
The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came, tempting.
Mark 16:1. Mark 16:1. Read.
And when the Sabbath was passed.
Wait, it said when the Sabbath was passed. What constitutes the Sabbath being passed? When the sun went down on Saturday. On today. When the sun passes today, the Sabbath is passed. Go ahead.
Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Solomon had bought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came unto the sepulchre at the rising of the sun.
So now at the rising of the sun, so we see at the first day of the week, at the rising of the sun, Jesus been gone. He had been gone approximately, you could say, way before the sun had set, that brought the first day of the week, at least 12 hours. Been gone, because he had to rise the third day. And he had to rise before the sun set, which brought in the first day of the week. So now let's keep it pushing. Now let's go and look at and break this thing down a little more. Let's go to Exodus 14 chapter and verse 24. Exodus 14 chapter and verse 24. So in the morning, when the sun rises up, you have what's called watches that come in. Effect. Let me point this out. Can I get my cameraman to zoom in? Because the day is broken down into watches. Now, for our purposes, again, this is the one that's in part one. This is based on a equinox day, equal day or equal night, or during the time in which the equinox had passed, where you have 12 hours of daylight and you have 12 hours of night. So now, let's read this. Let's read Exodus 14 and 24. Because see, each one of these little triangles that's pointed down represents a watch, and each watch is for 3 hours. So read that. Exodus 14 and 24.
14 and 24. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took of their chariot wheels, and they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel. For the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. So now we see the morning watch, which means this is the morning watch. The watch started, we have the night watches, which we dealt with last week. Today we have the day watches, or the morning watch, the watches of the morning, and there are 4 of them that cover a complete period of what's called the daytime. So now, let's do ourselves a favor, and let's go and read St. John 11 and 9. St. John 11 and 9. And then we're going to look at when Jesus died. We're going to look at how Jesus died, and this chart that the Lord allowed me to put together
will show us that this book is tight, y'all. I mean, I'm like, wow. I'm like, Ain't he amazing? And he is, y'all. So we're going to St. John 11 and verse 9. St. John 11 and verse 9. Let me get an amen.
Amen.
Read.
And Jesus answered him, are there not 12 hours in the day?
So he said, are there not 12 hours in a day? Now, in the same chapter, if we were to go down to verse 55, it talks about the Passover was 9. So that's how we know during this time period. That's why he said what he said. He said, are there not 12 hours in a day, which is the why you have an equinox period called, or what's called period called the equinox. So 12 hours in a day. That's what we got broken down here. This is our illustration based on a 12-hour day. So are there not 12 hours in a day? So before you get to the 12 hours a day, you have 12 hours of what? Night. Because that's what started a day. So now let's read Ecclesiastes 1 and 5. Ecclesiastes 1 and 5. Ecclesiastes 1 and verse 5. You get some read. 1 and 5.
The sun also arises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to his place.
See, the sun arises, and then the sun goes down. So now from the point for the sun rising up, and then when the sun goes down, that, once it reaches its highest peak, that's called noon. We're going to read that. So let's go to Malachi 1 and 11, y'all. Let's go to Malachi 1 and 11 and read the same thing pretty much. Malachi 1 and 11. Let me get an amen.
Amen.
Read.
For from the rising of the sun,
From the rising of the sun, go ahead.
even unto the going down of the same, my name shall be great among the Gentiles, and every place incense shall be offered unto my name, and a pure offering for my name shall be great among the heathen, saith the Lord of hosts.
Now look, he said, from the rising of the sun to the going down thereof. How long has the sun been going up and down, y'all? He said, my name shall be great among the Gentiles, y'all. But that's another tangent. I don't want to get into it. But from the rising of the sun, constituting the day, to the going down thereof, y'all. So now let's go to Nehemiah. We're going to go to Nehemiah 4:21. Nehemiah 4 and 21. And then we're going to get into a little bit here, exactly when Jesus died. Nehemiah 4th chapter and verse 21. Yep. Read.
So we labored in the work, and half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning until the stars appeared.
So now from the rising of the morning until, you can say, simply say, till the sun went down. Why can we say that? Because let's go to Psalms 136 and 8. Psalms 136 and 8. From the rising of the sun until the stars, the appearing of the stars. Watch what the Lord gave to rule the day. That's why I have this little emblem of a sun right here. You get sun? Read.
The sun to rule by day.
So you make the sun to rule by day. That's why it is the dominant light in the sky. Even when you see the moon faintly, is being dominated by what? The sun. And you don't see no stars. There are no stars. If you see a star in the sky in the daytime, that's because you're seeing a meteorite or you're seeing something real fast coming straight at you and it's on fire. And I suggest you run. Anyway. So, but the sun rules the day, for his mercy endureth forever. Read verse 9.
The moon and stars to rule by night.
Also, that's why he said, from the rising of the sun until the stars of the evening, y'all. Because as soon as that sun go down, that's when you see the stars or the twilight, y'all. So now with that being said, let's keep it moving, I want to go now, and let's go to look at how the middle of the day. Let's look at the middle of the day. Let's go to 1 Kings 18 and 29, because there's a midnight and there's a midday. 1 Kings 18:29, which is same as saying the noon, because you have a midnight and you have a midday. So 1 Kings 18:29. So we're on the mid part of the day. And then we're going to look at something else that happened in the middle of the day, y'all. 1 Kings 18 and 29. Actually, I want to read into this because watch this, y'all. 18 and 28. Read 18 and 28.
And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lances, till the blood gushed out upon them. Now this is heathenistic worship, pagan worship that Elijah, the prophet of the Lord, he had when these prophets of Baal was getting all into their thing, y'all. But go ahead and read. And it came to pass, when midday was past, and they prophesied unto the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice, nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. Now,
no, so say, and it came to pass when midday was what? Past. Because you have a what? A midnight. And when you get past midnight, we know what that is, most of sleep. But you have what's called a midday. Now, in the same verse, go up to verse 26 and read that.
And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal, from morning even unto noon. Oh, from morning even unto what?
Noon. That's midday, right here. Right in the middle of the day. Noon is called midday. Like we have a midnight. Like I said, there's a beginning of the night. I'll rather prove it. There's a beginning of the night, there's a middle of the night, and then there's the end of the night, where you have a beginning of the daytime, a middle of the daytime, and there's an ending part of the daytime, which is the middle is called the noon or midday. So now with that being said, let's go now to, we just saw noon. Let's go to Genesis 43 and 16. Genesis 43 and 16. We're on the middle of the day, and now we're going to give, I'm going to walk this down to, we're going to put Jesus in this, and we're going to show you when Jesus died, y'all. We're going to know exactly when the Lord died, when he was crucified. And what watch that was when he got crucified. 43 and verse 16. Yeah, 43, Genesis 43 and verse 16, and then we're going to skip down to verse 25. Read.
And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon.
So we know this is lunchtime. We call it lunchtime, y'all. They will dine with me, what? At noon, which is also called what? Lunchtime in modern day terms. But skip down to verse 25.
And they made ready the present against Joseph came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread.
Now see, it came at noon, and they sat down to eat bread there. Okay. So now let's go to, in the New Testament, let's go to Acts. I'm skipping over Deuteronomy 28. No, I won't. Deuteronomy 28 and 29. Deuteronomy 28 and 29. Because this is one of the reasons why you be seeing us walking around in the daytime, and you be like, what's wrong with it? Why they just hanging out? Because of this right here, y'all. Deuteronomy 28 and 29. You ain't got nothing better to do than to hang out on the street corners. But look what the Lord said that would be. Deuteronomy 28 and 29. Read.
And thou shalt grope at noonday.
Yes, sir.
As the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled even more. And no man shall save thee.
So we see, he said we're going to grope at noonday. As blind. But noon, again, is the middle of the day, y'all. Middle of the day. Now let's go and look at this aspect, y'all. Let's go to Acts 22 and 26. Acts 22 and 6. Acts 22 and verse 6. We dead in the middle of the day. Acts 22 and verse 6. And this here shows a time event when the Lord had knocked Paul down, and this happened at noon. Read.
And it came to pass, as I had made my journey, and was come nigh unto
Damascus.
About noon.
Yes.
Suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me.
So now by noon is when this event occurred to Paul. And like I said in the last first part one, if we wanted to do a play or we wanted to do a screenwrite or do a movie, these are very helpful indicators of when these events occurred, so we can actually have a live understanding, a living understanding of when certain things occur to certain characters in the Bible, y'all. These things are very key. I'm going to go look at Acts 10th chapter right quick. Let's go to Acts 10th chapter. Acts 10, do I want to go ahead now? Hold on. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to point out what is going on here. Now, let's go to Acts 10 and verse 1. Mm-hmm.
There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band, a devout man and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. He saw an evidently about the ninth hour of the day, an angel of God coming in to him and saying unto him.
Now look, notice something that says here. He saw a vision evidently about the ninth hour of the day. Let's point this out, because on the chart I have here little numbers that count down what. Now on the top, on the bottom I have the number of the time that we're used to, like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. But watch this, y'all. For this event, it said about the ninth hour of the day. So now, what are we looking at? The ninth hour of the day is past noon, And now we're looking at approximately 3 o'clock when this event occurred. Okay, this is a 9th hour. So we're looking at approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoons when this angel came in to Cornelius. Go ahead.
And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thy alms are come up for a memorial before God.
So this is about the 9th hour of the day. So now let's skip down to verse 9 and look at the next day, y'all. Skip down to verse 9.
On the morrow.
So now we're on the next day. Go ahead.
On the morrow, as they went on their journey, and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour.
So now let's look at what the 6th hour of the day is, y'all. So when we count, that's why I got this little circle, so we can count the hours of the day. So the 6th hour of the day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About the 6th hour of the day is when he came. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, so about the 6th. So just after about 11 o'clock. Okay, y'all? Go ahead.
And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance.
So we see this is about noon, almost noon time. That's why he became very hungry, because he was headed toward what? Noon time. So this event occurred just about right before noon, and then we saw with Peter. Well, as we saw with Cornelius, that happened about the 9th hour of the day. His was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon for all intents and tactical purposes for understanding in today's terms of time. So we see an event happened about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you have with Peter, happened with Peter the next day. They happened just before noon, y'all. So now what I want to do is get into Jesus. Let's go, the events that occurred with Jesus. Let's go to Luke 23rd chapter and verse 44. Luke 23 and verse 44. So we're going to look at Jesus' death. We're going to look at when he was on the cross and the events tied around that occurred. So Luke 23 and verse 44. This is why Jesus was up on the cross, y'all. Luke 23 and verse 44. Go ahead.
And it was about the 6th hour, and there was a darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour.
So now we see if you go 6 plus 3, give you what? 9 hours. 3 hours. So which brings us to the 9th hour. So it said it was about the 6th hour of the day. Then we had, he said, until the what? Until the 9th hour, there was darkness over all the earth. So during this time period, go ahead.
And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. And when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And having said thus, he gave up the ghost.
So now Jesus died between noon and 3 o'clock. Y'all, now watch this. Let's go to Amos 8 and 9. Amos 8 and 9. Jesus was there by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, y'all. It's amazing how Jesus is involved in everything. And you actually go read it and be like, wow. Amos 8, and we're going to start at verse 9. Read.
And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord God, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon.
So he caused the darkness to occur at noon, right in the middle. That's the 6 hour of the day. Right there, right in the middle of the day, y'all. There in the middle. Right in that point, right there. Right there in the middle of the day. So he said, it came to pass on that day, Lord God, that I would cause the sun to go down at noon, and go ahead and finish that.
And I will bring up sackcloth. And I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day.
Now Jesus died on the Passover. Now watch what happened after that. Go ahead.
And I will turn your feasts into mourning, and all your songs into lamentation. And I will bring up sackcloth upon all loins, and baldness upon every head. And I will make it as the mourning of an only son, and the end thereof as a better day.
See, as a better day, because that was the day they said, surely this is the Son of God. And it was like, wow, so that's what happened. That's how we know the ninth day is the 6th hour starts at noon. So now we passed in the middle of the day, and we went into the the third watch of the day, y'all. Okay? So now let's proceed on forward. Let's do ourselves a favor. Let's go to Nehemiah, the 8th chapter. Nehemiah 8 and 3. I'm sorry, I'm going to go to Matthew 27, verse 45. My bad, where we go there. My bad. Matthew 27 and 45. It's in two places in the New Testament. Read that, Matthew 27 and verse 45.
Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there, when they heard that, said, this man calleth for Elias.
Now skip down to verse 50.
Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost.
See, that's when he died, y'all, during that time period. So now, I just want to make sure I handle that, because there's more than one account of that. Because you got some people don't believe that the Messiah died. But this proves when, right? And that's how we know we get the Passover, right? Because when we observe it based on an equal day and equal night, we come around to that same time period that the Lord died in, y'all. So, moving right along, let's do ourselves a favor. Now let's go to that Nehemiah. Nehemiah 8 and 3. I'm going to go to Nehemiah 8 and 3. Nehemiah 8 and 3. Nehemiah 8 and 3. So Jesus died right after noon, but just before 3 o'clock. During that time period, during that watch of the day. The third watch of the day. So we're going to go to Nehemiah. 8 and 3. We're crossing past the noon. We're in the noon time period, and then we're going to keep on going across. And read.
And he read therein before the street that was before the water gate, from the morning until midday, before the men and the women, and those that could understand, and the ears of all the people were attentive unto the book of the law.
Now look, Israel actually read a lot of book, y'all, and I do mean a lot of book. In this same chapter, what I want to do is skip down. Hold on. A lot of book, y'all. Oh my God. Go to Nehemiah 9th chapter. And we're going to go to verse 3. Show you how long we used to study. We used to read long time and worship long time, y'all. So we're going to Nehemiah 9 and 3. And watch how it breaks down today. Nehemiah 9 chapter and verse 3.
And they stood up in their place and read in the book of the law of the Lord their God 1/4 part of the day.
Now look, he said they read the book 1/4 part of the day. So now we got 4 parts of a day. So what is 1/4 part? That's 3 hours of reading. 3 hours. And we sitting up here with a problem with 1.5 hours. Okay? We used to get in a book 3 hours, y'all. 1/4 part of the day, because you got 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, which makes a whole complete time period of a day. Okay? So they read 1/4 part of the day. Go ahead. And
another 4th part, they confessed and worshiped the Lord their God.
so now in another 3 hours, we did what? We did worshiping and confessing, because you had a lot of people, y'all. It ain't like, you got 5 or 3, maybe 100. You had our people that had knowledge of themselves, a lot of us, and that's about how much time you're going to need for that many people to be doing what? Reading. And then the 4th part of the day, they're confessing and worship the Lord their God. 3 hours worth, y'all. 3 hours. And we got a problem with 1.5 hours. Anyway, moving right along. Now let's go, and now what we're going to do is go to Acts 26 and 16. Acts 26 and 16. No, I don't want to go there. I'm going to bypass that. Let's go to Nehemiah 13, since we're in the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah 13 and 19. Now, herein lies the other part of the definition of an evening. Okay, y'all? The part of the day, or the closing of a day. As the day is going down, as that sun is going steady going down, the sun is evening out. It is coming down, and it's in the process of a motion called evening, to the point in which it is at even, meaning at even with you, or horizontal to us, okay? Which we dealt with last week in part 1, at even and sunset and sundown. But the whole process, afternoon, is called the evening, which is a portion of the definition for the word evening. So you had the beginning of a day, it's evening, then you got the closing of a day. So when that sunset splits, that whole process from PM is split by sundown. Okay? The closing of a day, which we're getting into now, till that sun hits evening. So now let's go. Because like right now, we're in the evening portion for the central time zone for us here in America. Because the sun is on its way down now. Okay? Actually started a little sooner than that because we're in the the sun's on its way down. So now let's read this Nehemiah 13 chapter and verse 19. So we're closing out today. Nehemiah 13 and verse 19. Go ahead.
And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I command that the gates should be shut and charged that they should not be opened until after the Sabbath. And some of my servants set idle at the gates, that there should be no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day.
So now notice what this verse says. When it came to pass, when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark, meaning as soon as that sun started tilting over, you can start seeing little shadows start showing up. They began to be dark. Why? Because now we're in the process of the sun going down. The sun is setting. The evening is starting to come in, and it's beginning to get dark. And as we go down, let's watch this, y'all. Let's go to Matthew 14 and verse 15. Matthew's 14th chapter and verse 15. We're closing out the day. Matthew 14 and verse 15. When you get him, get an amen. Read.
And when it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, This is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitude away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves victuals.
Now look, it said now, and when it was evening, meant this is past noon, but the sun hadn't set yet. How do I know that? Watch this, y'all. Let's get down to verse 22.
And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone.
Oh, so now when the evening was come, so notice it already said, and when it was evening. What evening, y'all? The one where the sun is going down. That's in the evening. Then it turned around and said, and when the evening was come, what evening was that? That was the fact that the sun had set. That's how you know the definition of the evening is the closing of a day, and then with the arriving or the start of the night. The closing of a day. Let me go from this point. The closing of a day and the start of a night. That right there shows you the definition is accurate. So now, let's proceed a little further. Let's go to St. John 20 and 19. St. John 20 and 19. Same type setup. But this shows you the evening of the first day. The sun hadn't set yet. So St. John, we're going to read one verse, 20 and 19. Read.
Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week.
So we're still in the first day of the week, but we at evening, but we're past noon. We don't cross this portion. We don't cross noon. We don't cross the noon. Now we're in the evening. But it's still the first day of the week. Because we haven't got to the sun down. So this is in the closing. It could have simply said, then the same day in the closing of the day, being the first day of the week. That's what evening means. Go ahead, finish that.
The doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews. Came Jesus and stood in the midst and said unto them, Peace be unto you. Now
Jesus couldn't do that before he was resurrected. While Jesus walked around in flesh and blood, he couldn't walk through no doors. Now he was a spirit being, a different type of spirit being. Anyway, that's another lesson. But let's go to Deuteronomy 23 and 11. Deuteronomy 23 and 11. Deuteronomy 23 and 11. Watch this. You get it? Read.
But it shall be when evening cometh on.
It shall be when evening coming on, meaning we done passed. We're passing. We passed noon. Evening coming on. Go ahead.
He shall wash himself with water. And when the sun is down, he shall come into the camp again.
See now, and when the sun is what? And when the sun is down, we done change days, y'all. When the sun is down, that's the next day. Let's go to Joshua 10 and 26. We'll go to Joshua 10 and 26. We're closing out the day, y'all. Joshua 10 and 26. Read.
And afterward Joshua smote them and slew them and hanged them on 5 trees. And they were hanging upon the trees until the evening.
They were hanging on the trees until the evening. And watch what happened, y'all.
And it came to pass at the time of the going down of the sun,
Yes, sir,
that Joshua commanded, and they took them down off the trees and cast them into the cave wherein they had been hid, and laid great stones in the cave's mouth, which remain until this very day. So
we see at the changing of the day, notice it says he cut them down. When that sun went down, that changed on us. Next day, it was a wrap. Okay, let's look at another example of that. Let's go to Jeremiah 6 and 4. Jeremiah 6 chapter verse 4. Closing out the day. Because the day is going away, y'all. It's going away. Once that sun starts going down, the day is going away. Yeah, Jeremiah 6 chapter. It reads, start at verse 4. Get in and get amen.
Amen.
Read.
Prepare ye war against her. Arise and let us go upon at noon.
Now stop right there. Say, let us go up at noon, right? That's when the middle of the, you got that, lunchtime. The sun done reach its epoch or its peak in the sky. Now, go ahead.
Woe unto us, for the day goeth away, for the shadows of the evening are stretched out.
Remember, we read the gates of Jerusalem began to be what? Dark, because the day goeth what? Away. That is what the evening is. It's a closing out of the day. And when that sun is down, it's a what? It's the next day. It is the next day. So now look, let's go to, I'm going to go now to, see if I can clear that. Now let's go to Genesis 15 and 17. Genesis 15 chapter, verse 17. And verse 17. You got it?
Yes.
Read.
And it came to pass that when the sun went down,
And when the sun what? Went down, go ahead.
and it was dark,
And it was dark. So now we got a time period from that. When the sun go down, it's dark. Go ahead.
behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces.
Now look, let's go to Luke. Another instance of it in Luke 4 and 40. Let's go to Luke 4th chapter and verse 40. Luke 4th chapter and verse 40. Yep. Luke 4th chapter and verse 40. When you get it, we get it. Amen. Read.
Now when the sun was setting,
So now when the sun is what? Setting. That's another word for the evening. Go ahead.
all they that had any sick with divers diseases brought them unto him, and he laid his hands on every one of them, and healed them.
So we see this occurred in the evening when the sun is setting. The sun is on its way down to what? Come to a sundown, which is what? The next what? Day, or when you had the closing of a day. Okay? So now let me see, make sure I'm tracking. So now to recap, just to recap, let's go back to Genesis, y'all. Back to Genesis, first chapter. And we see the whole pattern of everything going past. Everything is moving. So we're going to be Genesis 1 and 5. We're going to skip around. Let me bring this up. You there?
Yes. What you said, Genesis 1?
Just 1 and 5.
Yes.
Read.
And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
So now we got the counting of a day. Evening and the morning is the first day. Skip down to verse 8.
And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day.
So we count now. Now we count days. We got evening and the morning constitute a day. Then day 2 constituted what? An evening and the morning was the second day. Skip down to verse 13.
And the evening and the morning were the third day.
Notice how God counts a day, y'all. What constitutes a day? Evening and the morning. Every time another evening comes, you get another what? Day. Skip down to verse, let's go on for how the Lord is looking at a day, y'all. Skip down to verse, we was on the third day. Skip down to verse 19.
And the evening and the morning were the fourth day.
He done said this 4 times, y'all. The day don't start at midnight. A day starts at evening. Let's hear it for the 5th time. Let's go to verse 23. Read.
And the evening and the morning were the 5th day.
So now, evening and the morning. Evening, I'm doing this repetitively because that's how God got it written. Evening and the morning. Now let's skip down to verse 31.
And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day.
Now the Lord said this 6 times, right, y'all? But watch this. Go into Genesis, the 2nd chapter, and read verse 1.
Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and also a host of them. And on the 7th day God ended his work which he had made, And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his works which God created and made.
Now wait a minute. Notice this time. Did you see something missing? Remember, we saw evening and the morning. How many times, y'all? 6 times. But when we got to the 7th day, has a day like that come yet, y'all? Every day you've been alive, you've seen the sunset and the sunrise. Every day of our lives, we have seen the sun set and we have seen a sunrise. But have we come to a day where there has been no sunset or sunrise? Have we gotten there yet? Only way to learn is something, let's learn something else. Zechariah 14 chapter. Show you when the 7th day we're going to get in. And this is going to be out, we're going to close it out here. Zechariah 14 chapter. And we're going right to verse 6. Zechariah 14 and verse 6. Read.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark.
No clear nor dark. Interesting. He didn't say that there was no clear, no night or day. And for the 7th day, go ahead.
But it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord.
Oh, the Lord knows that day, Go ahead.
Not day nor night.
Wait a minute. So we haven't come to this day yet, have we, y'all? Think about it. Go ahead.
But it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light.
Oh, but at evening time it shall be light. So when we were looking at the top of Genesis, the 2nd chapter, guess what day we was really looking at? That day. So as long as we ain't came to that day, the 7th day yet, we still have an evening and what? And the morning to which the creation is bound by when we are counting a biblical day. So now, I hope you got some understanding concerning the evening and the morning. Like I said, these charts are available on the website. Let me bring this up. This chart is available, so you can go and print it out. You can print it out, have your own scriptures, and you can just lay it all out. So what I want to do, just make sure you go to BibleChristianGuide.com, the Doc for You tab, and you can print this out, and we have the counting of a day. So if somebody tell you the next day started, they get ready to observe what's called New Year's, man, they're going to be way late. Even we was supposed to observe a New Year's Eve on January 1. When they count at midnight, they late. They in the middle of the day been started about 4 hours, 5 hours ago, y'all. Okay? So that's another thing about understanding how the Lord and why we understand as the servants of God, how the Bible points out a complete day. So with that, I conclude this lesson.